stratified squamous epithelium are usually dead or dying cells. Now that's not a problem because epithelial cells, particularly squamous epithelium, have a lot of protein in them called keratin. Now we're going to learn a lot more about this later, so you don't need to really memorize it now. But even when the cell dies, this protein husk is left, and it's hard and waterproofing. So it protects the outer layer of your skin from trauma. Now let's take a look at wet and dry epidermis, wet and dry stratified squamous epithelium. So this is a cross-section through skin, probably like on the palm of your hand. And there might be about 50 layers of stratified squamous epithelium. The top layer is a little bit dead and dying off. Look at that. Where do you think that's from? This is the basement membrane down here. This is the underlying blood vessel layer. These are the living stratified squamous epithelial cells, and right around this spot, they're too far away from the food source to survive, and they begin to die and dry up and peel off in big chunks.
I was just thinking the same thing.
This is a heavily calloused area of your body. Hundreds and hundreds of layers of stratified squamous epithelium, but you know you can peel that big piece of skin right off, right? Doesn't even hurt. And that's because the bulk of it is dead. Now that doesn't mean it isn't useful. It's hard, dead, keratin-rich material that protects the bottom of your foot. You've got a big heel bone down there, right? It's a big, sharp bone, and if you didn't have a padded callus on to protect it, you'd rip the skin.
What is the white?
Air spaces. Yeah, and you can just peel that right off. Now, you know that if you work an area of your skin a lot, like, now nobody writes anymore with a pen or pencil, we all type, right? But if you spend all your time writing, you would get a little callus on your finger. And that's the normal protective response that your skin does. If you're gonna rub an area a lot, right, you're gonna build up a blister where the skin rubs away, and then the blister will be replaced by a callus, a thick pad of protective tissue in an area that's getting a lot of friction.
Guitar playing, I was thinking the same
My
thing.
fingers. Yeah, absolutely. This, on the other hand, is what the inside of your mouth looks like. This is wet epidermis. The basement membrane down here, and probably about 15 layers of stratified squamous epithelium. So thin, right, that it's red. You can see, the reason your inside of your mouth is red is because the layer of stratified squamous epithelium is so thin, you can see the blood vessels in the underlying area, okay? And so thin that everybody's nourished and everybody's fed, and even the uppermost layer is still living. A little stressed out, but still living. So when you traumatize that area, it bleeds because you have a much thinner layer of epithelium to go through before you hit the underlying blood vessel layer. And then finally, another one that you'll have a hard time identifying is transitional epithelium. This is found in one spot. Yeah. So the bladder's hollow, of course, right? And it has to stretch enormously to hold a lot of volume and then collapse. Sometimes when people are really stressed, they may have to hold almost a liter of urine. That's a lot. It could be up to a liter of urine in some cases in a urinary bladder. So the wall has to be able to stretch without ripping. And it can do this because of this transitional epithelium, where you have many, many, many layers of oddly shaped cells. They're probably closer to cuboidal than anything else, but they're not very tightly stuck to one another. So think of them as a big heated rock with all different sizes, right? And so when the epithelial, when the tissue is relaxed and the bladder isn't very full, you've got all these cells that are stacked with the littlest ones at the bottom, and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then at the top is the biggest layer of all. But when you stretch the epithelium, the whole surface thins out, and the top layers of cells sort of snuffle down and move and down to fill the gaps that are created by stretching the epithelium. So they're loosely adherent to one another so that they can settle into gaps when the tissue is stretched, and then they can bounce up to create tall layers when the bladder is empty and relaxed. So when you look at this tissue, what you will see, you'll know you're on epithelium. That's what it's going to look like, all right? You know you're on epithelium because you got air, right? This is the epithelial layer. Here's your basement membrane. Here's the nourishing connective tissue layer. And then you're like, what the heck is that? I don't see squamous. I don't see cubes. I don't see columns. And in fact, these look a little bigger up here than these down here. It's probably transitional epithelium. So when you do your histology quiz in the lab, here's the best way to learn to do the histology. There's going to probably be about 12 to 14 different tissue types that you're going to have to identify either by a slideshow or under the microscope. They'll give you lots of time to practice in the week before. I would learn the easy ones first, okay? And the ones that are really hard, set them in a corner. And there are going to be about 4 of them that are just going to be really hard. Don't get stuck and go, I can't move on to learn the next one until I identify